Let me explain examples. Okay, so in this figure the refracted ray QR is given, and they've said this refracted ray QR makes suffers minimum deviation and emergent like this. Emergent ray QR is given, and they've asked in the question that the complete the diagram to show the refracted ray PQ and the incident ray OP. Incident ray has to be OP and refracted ray has to be PQ. And since the ray suffers minimum deviation, the refracted ray has to be parallel to the base. So when you draw the figure, complete the figure, the refracted ray PQ has to be parallel to the base, and this OP has to be drawn such that this is normal and this is normal. This angle of incidence I1 and this angle of incidence I2 has to be equal. Then only the angle of minimum deviation takes place. So this is the answer. This is the reasoning which is given, as I told. And we have a monochromatic source in front of the prism. Okay, and the observer is over here. We have to see this source of light through this prism by this observer. Source is monochromatic, means only of single frequency. We have a source of light of single frequency. So for that we have to draw two rays. We have to draw the ray diagram for this case. So two rays from the source comes out and strike this face and gets reflected like this. Again it gets emerged like this. Okay, so it BC and MN are the two emergent rays. If I produce it backward, then they meet at this point I. So this is the position of image, because since the light travels in a straight line, even though the light is coming from here, getting reflected like this and bending towards the eye like this, but for this eye it appears to come from here if I produce it backward, because the light travels in a straight line and the image is formed over here. Okay, in question number 3, we have the two prisms are given with face parallel to each other. These faces are parallel to each other. See, two faces are parallel to each other. They are given and they're placed like this. So incident ray AB is given. We have to complete the ray diagram. So AB, so one thing you have to understand over here is that if the two faces are parallel, the incident ray and the emergent ray, the final emergent ray, has to be parallel. So AB comes over here, gets refracted, again bends down, again gets refracted, and finally emerges. This CD ray and this AB ray has to be parallel. Okay, so next question. So they have given the different prisms and we have to complete the diagram over here. So for the first prism, you can see this is the incident ray. Okay, and this incident ray is in the normal. Normal has to be in the same line. Okay, therefore the angle of incidence for this incident ray is 0. If there is no angle of incidence, the light doesn't get deviated, so it passes undeviated. So at this point it strikes. So see, we know this is 60 degree and this is normal, and obviously this has to be 60 degree. This has to be 60 degree, and this is 90 degree. So 90 minus 60 would be 30 degree. So this is how it came 30 degree. So this strikes at this point and it gets immersed like this. Second, see, again the incident ray is normally incident. It is incident normally. Angle of incidence 0 over here. So it gets undeviated, and at this point again it suffers refraction and it will bend towards downward. So this is angle of prism which is 30 degree, and this is a normal, and this makes an angle 30 degree. Now look at the third picture. This is making angle 70 degree. So it is making angle 70 degree. So here the angle of incidence is this is the angle of incidence, which is 70 minus 30, 70 minus 90, which is 30. So this is the angle of incidence. Here the angle of incidence is not 0 now. So this will suffer little refraction at this point. Again at this point it will suffer refraction and it will bend downward.